Let's see how we can use the testing toolkit to accelerate development. Suppose this is a DFSP implementation which can be under development. So a developer may want to send his HTTP outbound calls to a Mojo Loop switch. And also he may want to test his implementation by getting inbound HTTP calls from the switch. To run a whole Mojo Loop switch on the local machine demands higher hardware specifications, and also he may not able to alter the switch functionality in a way he wants to test his implementation. That's where the Mojo Loop testing toolkit comes into picture. We can replace the real Mojo Loop switch with the testing toolkit. It can simulate a switch or another DFSP, as we can provision any API in the testing toolkit. What are the benefits of this? As I said before, it's easy to deploy. It can do schema validation. It can simulate the responses and callbacks. We can add conditions using rules engine, and we can execute test cases against our implementation. We can provision multiple versions of FSPOP API in the testing toolkit simultaneously. We already added FSPOP version 1.0 and version 1.1. Testing toolkit can pick up the right version based on the accept and content type headers. A developer can deploy the testing toolkit very easily on his local machine. There are multiple ways to do this. If you have Docker in your machine, then the following commands can be used to start the testing toolkit. The web interface will be available on localhost :6060. If you don't have Docker or don't want to install the Docker, you can simply download the executables from the repository for the latest release. Unpack the downloaded file and run the program in it. It's the easiest way to run the testing toolkit. But bear in mind that you may need to allow this native program to be run in your security settings of your operating system. Last but not least, you can always download the source files of the repositories and run those services with Node.js. Let's see how to use testing toolkit as a simulator. Now I am going to run the testing toolkit with Docker, and on the other side, as a DFSP implementation, I am going to use Mojo Loop simulator. The Docker Compose file for the Mojo Loop simulator is also provided in the testing toolkit source repository. Let's start the testing toolkit. I have downloaded the Git repository and I am at the root level of the repository. Docker Compose up. You can see the testing toolkit is now started. Let's start the Mojo Loop simulator. In the root folder, you can find a folder named simulator. Change to that and execute Docker Compose up. Now you can see the services related to Mojo Loop simulator are started. Now let's see the web interfaces of both. Testing toolkit is available on localhost :6060, and the Mojo Loop simulator is available on localhost. This is the web interface for Mojo Loop simulator. I'm using this just for our testing purpose. You don't need to use Mojo Loop simulator or this UI for using the testing toolkit. You can find outbound send button here. Go to that, and if you click on send transfer button, the Mojo Loop simulator will initiate a transfer which involves get parties, post codes and post transfers to the testing toolkit. So before sending this, let's put the testing toolkit in monitoring mode so that we can see all the API calls and the responses between testing toolkit and the Mojo Loop simulator. So this is the UI for testing toolkit, and go to monitoring tab here. So here we can see all the inbound and outbound requests from the Mojo Loop simulator. Now let's send a transfer from Mojo Loop simulator. Click on the send transfer button here. We got reply and the transfer is successful. The information displayed here is populated by the Mojoloop simulator based on the 3 callbacks from the testing toolkit. Let's look at those API calls in the testing toolkit. We can see all inbound requests and outbound callbacks here with respect to testing toolkit. And here the first call is get parties and put parties is the callback. Then post quotes and put quotes. So we can expand a request here to see the detailed log. We can see the request came from Mojoloop simulator. These are the headers and this is the body. In the same way, we can see the outbound callback. This is the callback generated by the testing toolkit. So here testing toolkit is acting like a simulator. TTK can validate the inbound schema based on the Swagger definition. So you can see the schema validation is passed here and the callback is generated based on some rules. So we can see about that rules engine in the next section. Let's have a look at configuring the rules. There are 3 levels of rules engine in the testing toolkit. First one is validation rules. We can use these rules if we want to get error callbacks from the testing toolkit based on some conditions. Response rules. Using these rules, we can configure the synchronous HTTP response for a request based on the conditions. Callback rules. We can configure the callbacks we want for a particular request using these rules. Let's go back to our Mojoloop simulator outbound request page. Suppose as a DFSP implementer, if I want to get an error callback, then let's see how to do that using the validation rules. Go to testing toolkit. Validation rules are here. Currently there are no rules. Let's create a new rule. Click on add new rule and select the API. If I want a new rule for post quotes, select post quotes and add condition. Suppose if I want to check the body, the amount in the body, so let's select amount is greater than 100. If amount is greater than 100, I want to get an error callback. Select the error callback, mock error callback, save this file. Let's see in the simulator. We can send the transfer again. So now I got success with the amount 100. Let's try with $110. Send it again. See now the error code is 6008. Let's send it again. Now it says 6009. So it is mock generated callback by the testing toolkit. If I want to get a fixed callback, we can specify that in the rule. Let's edit this rule. Here we specified mock error callback. If we want to override that error code, check this button, override some parameters, and we need to override the error code here. To get the format of the callback, we can click on this, populate with sample body. Here, we can remove everything else other than error code and error description. Let's say the error is 5500 and the description is the amount is greater than allowed limit. Let's save this and let's send the transfer again. You can see the error code and the error description is from the rules, validation rules. So that's how we generate the error callback with the testing toolkit. Let's see how to configure callback rules. Let's send this transfer again. If you observe the first name of the payee here, it is changing every time I send the transfer. If I want to fix that, then we need to configure the callback rules. In the testing toolkit, go to callback rules, create a new rule, and select the API. The resource is get parties. Condition is I want to check the ID value in the path parameter, which is MSISDN ID is equal to 00011. Then select the event type as mock callback. Override some parameters. To get the format, click on populate with sample body and remove these values. I just want to override only name. So let's put my name. And save this file. Go back to Mojaloop simulator. Send the transfer again. And observe the first name and last name here. Those are fixed now. In the similar way, we can configure the synchronous response rules. That's how we can configure the rules in the testing toolkit to get the desired callbacks and responses. Let's see how to provision a new API into testing toolkit. Go to API management here. You can see we already provisioned all the Mojaloop related APIs like FSPOAP, settlements, central admin, ALS admin, and the Mojaloop simulator. If you want to add new API to the testing toolkit, click on this button. Drag or select your OpenAPI 3 version of API file in YAML format. For example, I am uploading a pet store API file. You can see the OpenAPI file is parsed and presented some information about the resources here. After confirming the name and the version, you can click on upload. Then the new API is provisioned here. And we can check auto-generated API documentation with this button.